Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I have to figure out how to fix that.
Hello. I don't think I can hear you. Let's see. Oh, because you're on mute. That's why. Okay.
Is that better?
Yes, I can hear you now. I'm just grabbing the apron.
Perfect. Okay. I will say hello to everybody. I know there's people that wanted to come that couldn't. So when we're done with this, I will clean it up and repost the video. Let's see if I can get everything.
Okay, good. So they'll be able to see like a recording of it.
There we go. So good morning, everybody. I am Jen Fink. I don't know why my normal background is not showing, but I'm not going to fight with technical stuff anymore this morning. This is my LinkedIn connection, Erica. She is an art therapist, and we thought we'd do a little caregiver art therapy and chat session this morning. So thank you for joining me,
Yes,
Erica.
I can hear you now. I'm just grabbing the apron.
Perfect. Okay, I will send you. Wait, I need to turn up the volume here. 1 second. Okay. Trying to figure out why I'm getting such a. Uh-oh. Hate that.
I don't want to interfere with the sound, so I'm going to be quiet.
Can we just cooperate here? I don't want to switch. Okay. Hopefully.
Recording in progress.
I want to reclaim my post. Let's see if that's better.
I'm going to add mine too.
Okay, I think we're getting there. So Erica is going to demonstrate some collage which is a good way to process feelings, emotions, even if you're not thinking about it.
It's almost like it's feeding back. You hear that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I try to turn off one. Wait a second. Let's see if that's better. Since the delay on YouTube is weird too, so. Are you getting feedback still?
I am not. It's almost like a delay of my voice.
I have that happen sometimes with certain recordings. Sometimes it just does that.
Yeah. It should be fine. I'm gonna also join in from my phone so they can see.
Which is a good way to process feelings, emotions, even if you're not thinking about it. Recording in progress. Looks like it's feeding back. You hear that? Yeah. It's like I try to turn off one. Certain recordings, sometimes it just does that. Oh, that's the problem. Be fine. I'm gonna also join in from my phone. Okay, I think I figured out the feedback problem.
Okay.
Now if we can just get the camera to turn the right way. There we go.
Yep, and I've got mine, so now they can see both at the same time.
That's what I was trying to do. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Gracious. Mine is still sideways. Maybe. I shouldn't look at YouTube. I should look at the camera, the zoom winning. Oh, goodness gracious. There is definitely a delay. Okay. So for anybody that's putting up with us in YouTube, I'm going to have Erica introduce herself, and then I'll introduce myself again a little bit, and we'll just dive into what we're doing and explain how art it's really good for your brain. It is good for processing emotions. So take it away, Erica.
Do I sound okay on your end?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like hearing this feedback, but that's okay as long as it's good. So I am an art therapist and I'm also a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Massachusetts. I live just north of Boston and I offer in-home art therapy to people living with dementia in the area. So I travel to people's homes. It's very individualized and I love the work that I do. I also speak about the work that I do. In a few weeks, I will be at the American Art Therapy Conference with one of my colleagues, and we'll be speaking about art therapy and dementia. And then in 2 weeks, I'll actually be in New York City with a music therapist, art therapist, dance therapist, and a dance artist. And we'll be talking at the United Nations General Assembly about our work, which will be really great through NYU. And that's just a little bit about me. I love making art. Today I'm going to be doing collage because that is what I find the most joy in. And I also feel it's most accessible for me. So if I don't have a lot of time, all I need is just a little bit of color, some scissors and glue. It can just make art very accessible. And so that's what I'm going to be doing today. And as Jennifer and I are just talking, we'll be talking about the benefits of doing this, kind of like also give you some insight into like what's going into my mind as I'm creating. And I would love to be able to just offer you some resources. So I have some different art supplies that I might suggest along the way. that are pretty cost effective and can go a long way.
So I'm going to do something that's called neurographic drawing. It's you need a pen and a piece of paper. Doesn't that matter? Maybe a pencil, crayon, anything to make marks on paper. So even more accessible, because I like the idea of doing collage. That's not one of the art forms that I actually participate in. And I'm also a very huge digital reader, so I don't have magazines and books and stuff that I can take apart for collaging. So, what I actually do besides being a retired photographer, let me grab a couple of these. I've been working really hard on Halloween cards, which I know it's only September, and I've actually been working on these since past just right after the 4th of July. Let's see if I can get these in the right direction. So I make handmade greeting cards. And what I'm doing is I create cards for pretty much, we don't get trick-or-treaters at our house. I live in the Sierra foothills and the driveways are really long. This hill is steep and there's no street lights, so it's not safe. So we go over to the other part of the community that's flat and more, I guess it might have streetlights. I don't know. It's total bedlam with kids and parents and just all kinds of stuff going on. And we reverse trick or treat. So I create these, this is backwards, so it's hard to do. I create little goodie bags with candy, glow in the dark necklace, and something for mom, which is kind of these cards. It's just, and this little guy is like, just his eyes are 4 pieces. These things are real tedious to put together, but it's actually so meditative and so creative that it's fun. So I've been doing that. I should have grabbed the ones that are done. I also print, those are the fronts of the cards. I still have to stick them on the bases, which is, come here, just the blank. Oh, well, this one is technically printed inside, but it's skipped. So I'll have to print it, flip it and print it and stick the thing down. So that's actually what I do. And I've actually done this neurographic drawing and then used my inks and turned it into a background for a card. So it's got some definite benefits. So I find doing things creative is super necessary for my mental health. And I don't have any anxieties, or let me get out from behind the other camera here. I don't have anxieties or anything, but there was a day, I don't know, a couple years ago where it just felt like the entire world was doing its very, very best to frustrate the crap out of me. And I had about 20 minutes between getting all my work done and having to start dinner. And I wanted to see if I had the tools to put together a Halloween card that I'd seen in Joann's. This tells you it's not current. It was a half skull, half butterfly. And I'm like, do I have the stuff to do that? And if you bear with me, I will show you the end results. Hang on one second, because I can grab one real quick.
This is very exciting. Waiting.
Should have had it before, but I just pulled out, there we go, all of my pieces parts. Kind of stamp. I have the butterfly, the little metal pieces that cut these out. The background was just really easy. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can make that happen. And I just, like, I could feel my whole system just totally calm down. And then I made dinner and everything was great. Just 20 minutes of, hey, can I make this happen, was beneficial. And I find if I don't participate in creativity, at least 3 or 4 times a week, I'm not always the nicest person. So
That resonates with me. My son started preschool last week, and in the past few weeks and just this week, I haven't made too much art, but I led a workshop the other day, and I felt so much better after that workshop because I was collaging. There is really something to that connection. I know some people will do like 10 minutes a day. I don't love the rigidity of 10 minutes a day, because then it's like I have to do it every day and then putting that pressure on myself. But I do find that if the night before, like the day before, I leave my art supplies out and everything's ready, kind of like, just like, hey, it's open, my art supplies are out, I'm more likely to go to it. So keeping that space can be really helpful.
My office is also my podcasting studio and my craft room. So I don't like clutter. There's enough clutter on my desk as it is. So I pretty much put everything away when I'm done. I do have the card fronts that need printing on my desk. And yesterday I was doing something just tedious, answering emails and printing the inside of the cards because I use a Cricut. It doesn't print, it draws. And so it takes forever. I actually have um, pet sympathy cards that I make for a local veterinary office. And I used ChatGPT to, I asked, it was kind of funny. I asked ChatGPT, are you familiar with the poem Over the Rainbow Bridge? Because as a pet owner, I've lost 5 out of my 6 dogs in the last 30 some odd years. And I don't, I appreciate the poem, but it's like such a tearjerker. I'm like, I want to do something that's related to that for these pet sympathy cards. And of course it goes, of course I'm familiar with the Over the Rainbow Bridge, and then it gives me like a little synopsis of the poem. Yes, yes, yes. I know what that is. So it came up with this really nice saying, and it takes 10 freaking minutes to write the inside of those cards on my Crickets. So I got to get started on those because they're running out, unfortunately. Good for me because I make a few extra bucks, but I told them, let me know when you're getting low. And they're like, yeah, we'll probably need some in September. And here it is, September 11th. Holy crap. This year is going by so fast. I'm going to start
Wow.
Christmas cards soon.
Yeah. So how many cards do you make a week?
It depends. Sometimes I do backgrounds. Sometimes I work on the little tedious guy. Um, this guy is part of a set.
Yeah.
So is this one. These guys are in the same set. And again, there are 4 pieces of paper, 4 teeny tiny little pieces of paper for their eyes. The purple is all individual pieces. The little two. I mean, holy, yeah. Sometimes it's like I just put a movie on Netflix on my computer and I just assemble them. And you'd think, oh, it's tedious. It wouldn't be very fun, but it's really meditative. And that's what I find about crafting is I know from talking to many of my doctor and researcher podcast guests that anything creative fires up all the ranges of your brain. And it is also meditative. So you're really like, you're getting a massive bang for your cognitive buck by doing something creative. And so that's why I'm going to show this really simple one. Um, Looks like Erica's got watercolors. And what else you got there?
So I've got watercolors, I've got a National Geographic. I also have fabric in this bag and stickers, and then another thing to cut out. I've got markers, glue, pretty much everything. I was looking, there's one art supply that I recently found at Michael's that I wanted to share, but maybe it'll reappear. I have a lot of art supplies, as you can imagine.
I do too. And it's funny because I love the little, like the YouTube videos on like craft room tours. And, the card makers like myself or the paper crafters, they've got like their inks in these storage containers on the wall and they're all in rainbow order. And it's so pretty. And it's like, I can't do that because all of that stuff would reflect um, the audio. So, like, if you walk into a typical household room and it doesn't have anything on the walls, and maybe there's nothing on the floor, and you get that tinny, echoey sound, that's what it would do. I have, let's see if I can I show it without making everybody seasick? So if you see the flower back there is actually, it's a photograph that I took ages ago. I'm gonna see if I can angle this so I'm not right behind the camera. Um, and they're all 4 inches deep, and it's like a box, and they're all filled with foam and insulation. So it absorbs that sound enough that it doesn't echo. My office is very quiet, so I get an extra meditative benefit from my crafting because it's so quiet.
Yeah, when you're in there, that's really, really nice.
The only challenge is
I
I get really irritated with noises. Like about a month ago, the neighbor on one side of us lost an oak trim and like literally just boop, fell over. No fault of his, but oh my gosh, the chainsawing and wood chipping and oh my God, for days. And it was like, are you people really trying to make me insane? And now the neighbors on the other side are doing some concrete work.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Normally it's pretty quiet, but I'm also on the golf course, so sometimes I get the golfers screaming and yelling, and there are days when it's just like, shut up. I like my quiet. So I close
Yeah,
it.
I live next to a hospital.
Oh, that's probably
So we
worse.
hear ambulances, not too often. It's kind of like it comes and it goes. I feel like people complain and then they don't run their sirens for about a
Mm.
month or two, and then they pick up again. And that it's like this cycle. So recently we haven't heard them too much. But it's not terrible. And also, if I cut myself, I can just walk to the
Yeah,
hospital.
it's like, unlike, well, where I live, it's about 10, 15 minutes to the hospital, but I live in the lower Sierra Nevada foothills. See if I can talk.
Okay.
And if we if we were still with Kaiser, it's a 45-minute drive to the hospital. No, thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. There was one time I was I don't know what was going on. I don't get sick very often, but my system was just not cooperating with life. And the doctor prescribed something which was like, oh, it's a 45-minute drive to go down there and pick up the prescription. My husband looks at me and goes, I'm not driving down there tonight. It was after dinner. And I'm like, I don't blame you, but I feel like crap. So, if you're gonna move, make sure you don't move away from major medical. Not that we want to contemplate needing that, but um, you know, I had a Alzheimer's Association friend who lived, I don't know if anybody is familiar with Discovery Bay, California, but it's beautiful. But it's like in the middle of nowhere. And she told her husband, if something happens, you better we're awfully far away from the hospital, and I don't know what happened to him, but I know he died. And I sometimes wonder if her um, predictions was true. So I am going to start on. I was explaining this to my neighbor. She was headed to work. She gets to take a golf cart to work, so that's pretty cool. She works in we have a
Really
very
cool.
large gated community. And so she works in our admin office. And I was telling her about neurographic drawing, and she was really interested in it because I told her it's really good for people that have anxiety. Not like I said, I don't, but I feel the calming benefits from doing it. So I told her I would send her the link to this when we're done because I said, probably not going to be watching this at work. So neurographic drawing is it's really simple. You just, curvy lines, as many as your brain wants to do. And so Erica's doing some watercolor. One of these days I might actually get into watercolor. I follow a couple of watercolor artists on YouTube, and they make it look so easy.
So you don't have a watercolor set or anything?
I do have I have like the Crayola one with the pans, but I do have some tube ones. I took a class years ago, and I had some success, but now one of the creators that I follow did the same technique, and I'm like, I think I see what I was doing wrong. It's just one of those, sometimes you have to somebody else has to explain the same thing before you're like, oh, I get it now. And I think that's what it was. And they do some really simple stuff that would make nice card backgrounds or just nice simple cards, but it's like I have more card making supplies than I have time. And they come out with new stuff every month, and it's like, oh, that's really cute. Probably have something similar, or I can use the Cricut to cut things out. Somebody came out with really cute little monster dies. So die is a metal piece that you run through a machine that puts a tremendous amount of pressure on it and it cuts the paper. It'll cut through some fabrics and stuff too, which I haven't tried. Well, I've done it once. And I was like, oh, I really like those. And I make all these Halloween cards. I'm like, I have Halloween stuff I haven't hardly used. So we're not going to buy that. But I was so enamored with the little cute monsters that I just finally did it with the crickets. I'm like, okay, there is a difference between these are cut out with the metal pieces. So there's more details and they're slightly beveled. So they're just a little bit nicer. But, you know, if you're passing out Halloween cards to 200 kids in the neighborhood, I don't think they're analyzing the card that much.
Yeah, yeah. I bet they're just there for the candy.
Yeah. And they seem to like the cards. They don't look at me like I'm some complete weirdo. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
I might be getting dissed on TikTok or something, but moms like it. So, you know, and it's fun. It's one of the things that I do keeps me out of trouble. You know, there's not a lot of shopping nearby. So, you know, every time I think about shopping, it's a 45-minute drive. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll just make cards.
That's pretty good though. Saves money, right?
Definitely. Dripping on my paper. So one of the things you're going to do once you finally get as many lines as you think looks good is you're going to go into these little V's and round them off. This might require some glasses. Oh, I can see that a little better. You just kind of soften all those little V's into U's. And I think the softening of all these harsh edges is also part of the calming of the brain.
Yeah, when I've done neurographic art before, or maybe I found this like blog about it or something. I don't know. It said you can also ask a question. And then when you're drawing your lines, you just keep thinking of the question.
That's
And by the end, like when you're all done with your finished product, that you may come up with the answer that you've been looking for. So that's like another way to take neurographic art to a deeper level too.
interesting. I did not know that. I will have to give that a try. I am 99% finished writing a book. And the last chapter was hard because obviously it's about my mom and our journey. And the last chapter, second to last chapter, was on her last month.
Oh,
Well, yeah, about almost a month. And that was hard. And it was supposed to have 12 chapters. The 12th one was supposed to be falls and fall prevention because it's a fall that finally was the last straw for my mom's body. And then I realized I hadn't done a chapter on self-care. And so that I'm like, there's no way in Hades. I'm not superstitious, but I'm not leaving it with 13 chapters. It just seems no. I wanted it to land on 12 because my mom's birthday was January 12th. So I have to write the post caregiving chapter, and it's kind of stumping me a little bit. So I'll do this when we're not chatting and see if I usually think about things when I'm working out, and that usually helps. So, but today was dog walking, and my current golden is 11. She's actually still outside because she was watching this lame turkey, and I don't mean lame as in he's got a bad leg.
you're just sitting there.
Well, he hops around and he can fly, but she's just fast. I'm like, you want to come in? You've been outside for like an hour. And she didn't want to come in. So now she has to stay until we're done. But the two previous Goldens to her, one had really bad nerve arthritis in his back legs. And his cousin, who was 2 years older, had hip dysplasia that wasn't a problem until she was in her last years. And so they didn't need a leash. And I had 3 Goldens at the time, and 3 leashes when we're trying to walk is a tripping hazard. It's a nightmare. So they would just go rogue. And now she seems to think she should go rogue. And there's nothing wrong with her. And I'm trying to convince her that no, it is not necessarily, I'm not super comfortable with you being off the leash, although it is beneficial for her because she'll stop and sniff, 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 sniff. And for anybody who's not really up on dog cognitive health, dogs experience the world through their noses, whereas we experience them through their eyes unless we're blind. So it's important that they stop and sniff, and that's how they figure out what's going on. And yes, it's super annoying. So she'll stop and sniff, 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 and I just keep walking. And then she like runs really hard and gets in front of me, and then slows down, walks next to me, and then stops and sniffs, and it repeats. So she's doing HIT training, like burst of running, walking, stopping, burst of. So it's really good for her. But, we have deer and squirrels and other people walking their dogs on leashes, cars, truck, like, I just, we walked the other day and I'm like, see, you can actually do this on the leash. So we made it, we did about 90% of the walk today on the leash. So, but she'll twist her head trying to get out of the leash, and she'll really, really slow down. And it's like, come on, just walk. So I don't get to think about things when I'm walking her. Not usually.
You said you can't think about things?
Not usually. Well, I'm a Peloton member, and I do the power walks. So there's a class playing in my ears. I have it
cool.
I have it pretty quiet. Yeah, they have Peloton outdoor. Peloton has everything. Like if you got space and money to burn, you can get their bike, you can get their treadmill, which is gigantic. Their rower, they have a thing that connects to a TV so that you can watch your form next to the instructor's form. They have yoga, mindfulness, meditation. There we go. That's the right word. Pilates, bar, cycling, strength, stretching, the row, the tread boot camp, bike boot camp. I think they might have the rowing boot camps. I don't know. I have the bike. That's enough. So there's plenty of activity you could do with them. And then their outdoor stuff. So
you just have a membership with the bike?
Yeah.
And that gives you like the access to the other things?
Yeah. And you can do it actually. You don't have to have their equipment. They have a gym membership, so you can go and take classes, Peloton classes. Like you can go to your local gym and use their equipment and do the class. So it's pretty robust. I know, I joke that I belong to the cult of Peloton. I'm always
You sound like you're very committed to it. So
that is because almost 15 years ago, when I had a photography client who was a doctor. My dad's side of the family has a proliferation of type 2 diabetes, and I was super, super overweight. She was a doctor, and she said, you have a family history of diabetes, you're overweight, you're screwed, is the actual word she used. And I joked that my little squirrel brain was like, I'll show you screwed. And so I'd been on diets and, done different things, and, you lose the weight and it comes back, and, that's pretty typical. So I'm like, screw this. I'm going to figure out what I need to do to lose the weight and keep it off, because there's no point in this yo-yoing. It just makes everybody miserable. And so I lost over 100 pounds, and I've kept off about 80% of it, that's the hardest part. Cause you don't go on a new, change your whole lifestyle and do a different nutrition plan and then go back to you got to do it forever. People are asking me, what did you do to lose the weight? And I would always tell people, you have to figure out what works for you. And I explain that I eat really, really lean. I can eat more starchy carbs, not garbagey ones like white bread or anything, but I can eat more of that than a typical person. But I can walk past a marbled steak and my body's like, yep, we'll store that for the famine we know is coming. So I tell people, if there's a famine, I'm going to win, because my body stores food, stores fat, just, 2 or 3 extra calories, and it stores it as 10. So that's, I have to have to stick on that path. And so that's why I'm dedicated. Now it's like if I don't do a workout in the morning, I don't feel like I've gotten my brain, like I haven't had enough caffeine or something. So,
Yeah, I hear that.
and then
I mean,
along the way, I learned that everything I did to avoid the type 2 diabetes has also helped me avoid dementia.
right. Yeah, those modifiable risk factors, you're just kind of checking them off.
Well, yeah, especially for people who might be new to this channel. My mom had Alzheimer's for 20 years. My maternal grandmother had vascular dementia, and my maternal great grandmother also had some form of dementia. So, thank you. We are not continuing that history. Nope, not at
Yeah,
all. So,
knowledge is power.
exactly. And it just feels good. There was one time I broke a nail, which is really rare. And I went back to the nail salon and they're like, "Do you remember what color?" And I'm like, "Actually, I think I do." I was like, "This is in the green book." I think it was either 95 or 96. This was like 3 weeks later. And I was like, I remembered, I was stunned. But then I broke another one. We couldn't remember what color. We never actually found the matching colors. You had to blend two. So, but it's really makes me feel good when I can remember some stupid trivial thing because I don't generally remember trivial stuff. I got better things to do with my brain.
Yeah,
Like I don't. I might be like, I like that song, and it sounds like like I can't tell you who's popular with music, or they'll say, "Oh, this star," and I'm like, "Oh, me means nothing to me." That stuff doesn't stick, but when important stuff sticks and you can access it, that's kind of reassuring.
yeah, right. Like you're saying, like it doesn't mean anything to me, so my brain just kind of discards it because it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So talk up a little bit. So you say you do in-home art therapy for people with dementia.
Yeah. So it's very individualized. I work with a variety of diseases, and sorry, can't do two things at once. So it's very individualized. It really depends on what capabilities the person has. I work from a strength-based perspective that if I still have the ability, that capability to do things, like that's what I like to tap into. So maybe, for instance, like I am actually a phenomenal painter, but I don't have the executive functioning skills to know when I need to put more paint on my brush or when I need to clean my brush to change the color. So in that instance, I am the third hand. And so the third hand is actually from art therapy. It's by one of our founders, Edith Kramer of art therapy. And she speaks about how the art therapist supports their client by being this third hand and this next like and as it has that um works with dementia, it's with like this particular case I'm talking about, it's just I am that executive functioning part of the brain for them. For other people, it could be totally different. It could just be that the arts are a great way to express themselves and they need more or less structure. They need something adapted so that they can then do it on their own, or um, they wouldn't otherwise participate in the arts without me coming with my bags and boxes of supplies. And so clients can work with acrylic paint, they could work with watercolors, collage, clay, um, flower arranging. I've worked with a few people very later on in their disease process where maybe holding a paintbrush is too difficult or sorting colors to put in a collage is too difficult. And we work with flowers. And there's still so much going on when doing a flower arrangement. The brain is looking at the flowers, deciding which flower should go next, where should it go, And it might be less about talking and more about me holding the vase so that they can move the flowers around from that intuitive piece inside of them. So that Tipo Stowe talks about like the autonomic movement and the like. So it's that piece where it's just like, I'm going to automatically do this. I don't have to think about it. It's a feeling, like that flower is giving me a feeling. So like, I need that. And I'm going to take that. And that also, a lot of my work gives people back control because they're generally moderate to later stage and everything is either done for them because it's perceived that they're not capable, or the caregiver might have this feeling of like, I have to do everything. They can't do anything anymore when really they can. Like I have worked with people who, um, like scissors, like cutting. Most people would be like, no, no sharps, no
Yeah,
scissors. But in a safe space, scissors can be a great option for someone. You're working on your the movement of your hand. Like there's strength functioning in cutting. There's hand-eye coordination in cutting. And so I often lean on like the OT perspective, like using skills. I, if I don't use it, I'm going to lose it. And a lot of my clients will stay for a really, really long time, like years, which is really nice because the family see the benefit for the person. But I also think that it's prolonging their life
probably. My
because they're
mom always
using,
worried about doing it wrong. So frustrated. She was super creative. She sewed. I mean, she made all my bridesmaids dresses, my flower girl dresses, the cummerbunds and the bow ties for the groomsmen. I mean, she was accomplished. She also did, I think she did oil paint. I can't remember what kind of painting it was. Pretty sure it was oil. She did woodworking in the earlier stages of her disease. I don't think we knew that she was sick at that point. Um, I have a wooden sleigh, so it's a miniature sleigh. It's probably about 3 feet long and 2.5 feet wide. My maternal grandfather built it for her for our photography studio. Excuse me. And she painted it. And it's like the only thing I wanted from their house when my dad died and my mom moved to memory care. So I tried to do all the simple things. And there was just one day we were in the memory care and they were going to do the group coloring. And I told her, I said, I have started coloring because it is so relaxing. I'm actually part of a group called Cocktails and Coloring here in my community. I don't drink, so I'm like the chit chat and coloring, like we're doing now. And she had a really hard time deciphering what was inside and what was outside the lines, which that I understood, but everything else I tried with her was a fight. Never worked, and I never could understand why. She would do some stuff with other people, not with me. And she thought of me as her best friend, so I never figured out what that was about.
yeah, it's always hard to know what, what's the right way to access someone, or maybe, just being happy that knowing that like other people could access that part of her. Which is also hard because as her daughter, you want to have that experience with her.
Hmm.
Um, so that's like that challenging part. But I'm glad to hear that even someone was able to get her to use those skills. I have found that when I've been matched with people that have a very strong art background, whether they were an artist or they just did art as a hobby their whole life, that they often have this memory of what it should look like and how the tools should be used, that they don't want to do that anymore because they're aware that they can't do it that way. And it might be introducing a different art supply for that person. I've had that experience with someone who was a painter, and we ended up having a lot of success with charcoal, just a totally different art supply. And for that person, it was really beneficial. And honestly, what often amazes me is that if somebody sticks with an art supply, their skill set gets better, their drawings get better, their compositions get better, which goes against the narrative that there's decline. It's like, what's going on in that person's brain? Like, I would love to do research on this just to like hook somebody's head up and just like follow them and be like, okay, where are we making connections in the brain? Like something is clicking.
Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting. Maybe it's because it's firing up all the so it's like it's using more of the brain. I don't know. I talk a lot about how if I was half my age and had twice the science aptitude, I would so go into brain research because it is so fascinating. Like science, space is really cool and interesting. I think the brain trumps space anytime.
yeah, I agree with you. And also like our brains are here. They're
That's true.
they're here and we don't have to go very far for them.
That is true. I've read this an article from the guy that has the Neuralink that Elon Musk does. I don't well, he kind of figures he was kind of locked in, like he couldn't really communicate and couldn't really do a lot, and he he figured I can't get any worse, so what the heck. Um and that was an interesting article to read because I'm not at the point where I'm ready to let somebody put a probe or whatever in my brain or a chip or whatever it is, whatever the I'm almost 59, so I remember when computers were ran on cassette tapes.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure about I'm a pretty not early adopter of technology, but I'm a sooner it's the right word. I've been using AI for a couple of years, which blows my mind. One of the things I do, I think I mentioned, is Chat GPT helps me come up with sayings for the inside of the cards. And I actually use it when I'm planning the weekly meals.
That's
And
cool.
I'll have it pair like, okay, here's what, we're going to do, these 5 things. Give me some unique side dishes. And it's all in one conversation. And now like one time I was like, I like variety, and I'm at the point where nothing sounds good. I eat a lot of vegetarian meals. Between 50% and 75% of my meals are vegetarian. And I was like, I don't want beef. I don't want chicken. I don't want friggin' lentils. Want any of it. I need a pill that makes me feel full and gives me all the nutrients because I'm not interested in, nothing sounded good. So it came, and of course it's so empathetic and totally understanding. And it came up with some new things to try. Now I have to remind it I don't like chickpeas, and my husband really prefers meat, so I try to avoid tofu because I'm not ready to dive into a lot of that. I decided to do squiggly neurographics here. Probably have
Yeah.
fewer, there's still points there. That's interesting. And I figured, what the heck? One of the things you can do, since I used a Sharpie, um, you could go in and watercolor on this. I have inks that I can color and cut it up into this size, so a fourth of a sheet. And this kind of looks a little, if I used green or the Halloween colors, kind of looks like a spider web. Once I fix some of these lines, they're really thick, so that's why I thought I'd try something different here. Just experimenting is fun. If you
Okay,
don't,
you have two different pictures. I'm like looking down and then up, right?
yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
yeah.
no, no,
So
you're drawing.
yeah, so I finished this one for the most part.
Yeah.
I was saying that you can watercolor over this because I used a Sharpie, which is permanent. And I might go in with the inks that I have for card making and color in
Right.
Halloween colors and cut it up. Then I thought, well, let me try some squigglier stuff. You still have the little pointy corners like here. I'm trying not to make them so thick this time. I don't do this a lot because I do the card making. I like what you got going there. You got some of my favorite colors going on in there.
Yeah, it's just like a bag of stuff. I think if you're watching right now and you're like, how do I do it? You can use things from around your house. So tissue paper, you just save it from when you get a gift bag and it has tissue paper in it. It doesn't have to be like I'm setting out to do something. I often don't set out with intention, and I let whatever I'm interested in kind of speak to me. This book, I love these sticker books. So it's full. I'm going to put it on the other screen, but it's full of stickers and they're antiquarian. They're really funky. They have several different versions. So one of the books is just all letters, and this one is all images, but you can really find anything in this book. And they're funky. You have to be open to funky. See kind of, I think that they offer a laugh. Like I use them with my clients and they'll like look through and people might point things out. And I just cut it out. And then what's nice, so I just cut this and I can then just take the back off and it's a sticker. I don't have to worry about even having glue. There's my sticker. See that
Cool.
little bunny.
The designer that I like is actually all of the cards that I showed you. The products all come from the same person, and he's into vintage and grunge. And he does a lot of he has a whole line of products called Ideology, and it's all stuff to collage with. Again, I haven't gotten into that because it's just like it's only so much time.
Yeah, only so much time. I just spend way too much money at Michael's and on Amazon. So once you buy one thing, they recommend another thing.
Exactly.
This is another book, Amazing Things to Cut and Collage.
Oh, that's
See if
cool.
this works. You can see. It's all different random things. What I love about these books is they're often photos or images not from this time period. And so I can kind of access different conversations with my clients when we look through it. Like with hats, it might be I have a conversation about hats. Which one would you wear? What would you wear going to a party? What would you wear if you had to go to a theater? Some kind of conversation prompt like that. And this one, it has a lot of metal work. It's just tons of stuff. Planes, people. There's also a famous painting. They have like the Degas, the dancers. I used one of those the other day. So there's just a lot of options in there.
That's interesting. In the Ideology line, he's got he collected vintage photographs of people. So they're all like black and white, or mostly they're sepia tone. So for the non-photographer people, sepia tone is the brown tone pictures, so the brown and white. And so he's got, I don't think he calls them paper dolls. He's got portraits, he's got photo studio. So they're different sizes of photos of people. Some of them are full length, and I love them, but it's not my style of cards, even though I totally love him. I actually think the designer's name is Tim Holtz, and he's huge here on YouTube. I think he actually has an Ideology live on Saturday this weekend. So that would be the 13th. So for anybody who's like interested in more collagey stuff, you might want to check him out. You can always look at all his old videos. He's He was such a prolific designer, and he shocked the card making world this past January, when he basically said, I'm not designing stuff. I'm going back more to my teaching roots. And it was like, oh, like rocked everybody's world. And I'm like, well, that'll save me some money.
Have you bought a lot of his stuff?
Yeah, I'm not probably all my inks are his. I'll show you 1 second.
That's how I know that name. You said inks?
Yeah. So his story about how he got into is that upside down? I can't tell without my glasses. I think this is right way up.
That's the right way, yeah.
He I love this because there's actually a Ben Franklin Crafts not too far from me. And he got pretty much coerced into teaching a stamping class. And he's like, it's all like rainbows and flowers. Like there's nothing for like a dude. And he got into it, and the gal teaching him how to teach the classes really inspired him. This is a guy that wanted to be an accountant and has spent 20 plus years designing stuff. So I don't know, he's got an interesting brain. He came up with these inks. So these are a water-based ink, but they're a dye and a pigment. So they react to water, and they'll get like a little chalky, kind of a vintagey look. They're not like the super bright, colorful. I mean, they're still colorful. I'll show you my swatches. I finally got smart and swatched stuff. So if I'll hold these up, you can see like, where is that one that I just had? So this is, come on, cooperate. So this is the ink I was showing you. It's called Aged Mahogany. And you can see it's kind of like, it's got a vintage feel. They all kind of do. This is Fired Brick. His favorite colors are down here. His favorite color is, you can see this one. I get it you see this little stripe of gray. That's because I put too much water. It got wet. So his favorite color, that's Gathered Twigs. No, he likes, where is it? Walnut State is his favorite. Maybe I don't. This one's vintage photo. They're really cool. Very, very cool. But he kind of shocked the world when he came out with Kitsch Flamingo, because he is totally not a pink guy. But like, this is my favorite color, as you might be able to tell. So he has designed, I think, over 5,000 products, but he came up with these inks, and he has challenged the chemist at Ranger Ink on all kinds of stuff. They've got one more drawer down. This is one of his latest products. It's called a Distress Spritz. So this is the same color as the inks. So what this is the shiny mica, which is, the mica is blue, and it's suspended in just a clear liquid. And so it gives it like, it's called a spritz. So it gives it like a little shimmer on your project. He's got mica sprays, which are really shiny. He's just come up with so much stuff, but when he was designing and they would launch the new products, he would talk about, blah, blah, blah. I asked the chemist if they could do this. And I swear that chemist is probably bald, because he has challenged the chemist to push the possibilities to the very farthest edge. And it's paid off. They didn't think those distress inks were going to take off. I think they came out with 10 or 12, and they sold out at like the first conference they took them to.
Oh,
and
wow.
There are 72 in the line. I have almost all 72. I've kind of vowed I wasn't going to get all 72, but I might. I've twice bought the same color twice. It's like, that doesn't help.
That's funny. I've actually seen that inking pad. I know nothing about inking.
So in January of 2020, well, let me back up a step. So we lived in a different town, lived on a golf course. September 2019, they closed the golf course, and my husband's a real estate broker. We were walking the dogs in October of 2019, and he's like, you know, we finally have equity in the house because, of course, we bought the house in 2007. So most people will know what that means. 2008, boop. So we finally have equity. I don't want to be in our 60s and the golf course looking like crap and not have, be upside down in this house again. And it was huge. It was 3,400 square feet. My studio was attached to it. It was just the two of us and the dogs. It was a interest only loan. Like, we're never going to pay this off, and it was expensive. So he's like, we should sell this house and rent for a year or two, figure out what we want to do, and go from there. And I'm like, yeah, that makes perfectly good sense. Except, what will happen? I said, one of two things will happen. Mom will die, or Nana will die. Nana was my paternal grandmother who died after my mom. So he's like, well, just think about it. And I'm like, this house is single story, wide hallways. If somebody ended up with a walker, one of us ended up with a walker or a wheelchair, all we'd have to do is take out the carpet. A lot of it was tile. Tile was a nightmare. Like, the people that bought our house actually put flooring over the tile, which I didn't know you could do, because that was a smart move. But because that tile was just horrible to try to keep clean. So it was a really good house for aging in place, except for the mortgage was like a noose around your neck. Christmas Eve, a friend of mine who was in the cycling club I was in passed away. And I'm looking around the house on Christmas Day, and I'm like, it's just freaking house. It's 12 years old. It's going to need painting. We put the backyard in stages, and the irrigation doesn't always work so well. And really, the only way to fix that is rip it all out, start over. I don't got money for any of this stuff. F it, it's just a house. We moved at the end of January 2020. Had no idea what was coming. We all know what happened in 2020. And guess what? My mom died March 31st, 2020. And, could have paid a big chunk to the house. It still wouldn't have been the best financial move to keep it because it was still expensive and too big. And then April of 21, my paternal grandmother died. So I was right. We downsized our house, and both of those ladies passed away. One of our dogs passed away in between the two of them. So it was nice to have a rental during the pandemic that we just gave back to the landlord and moved away. But yeah, it was just crazy. So in January 2020, I got rid of absolutely everything. It's like I had crafty stuff I hadn't hardly touched in 20 years. I had some stuff, like I've got all these Sharpies because I thought I was going to do stuff with them. And I'm like, I still kept the Sharpies because those are expensive to buy. But I'm like, if I haven't used it in the last month, and you have to remember, like, that was over Christmas, I'm just giving it to teachers and people who want them. And when I figure out what I want to do, I'll just go to the store and buy the. Well, that didn't work. So one day I'm scrolling on Instagram and I see the machine. They generally call an embossing and die cutting machine. There's a lot of different brands. I use one by Sizzix called the Big Shot, and I'm like, that's a good idea, because what I wanted for my crafty creative outlet was something that didn't clutter up the house. Because, like, how many of those chunky knitted blankets do you need? I really love the acrylic pour paints. Well, I'm kind of messy when it comes to crafts. I'm like, I can only imagine how much disaster I'd make with pouring paint all over the place. And how many of those do you need? I mean, I've got artwork all over the house, and it's all photographs that I've done. So I don't need painting too. So I was like, okay, I don't want the neighbors running away from me because they're like, oh my God, here she comes at me with another scarf or whatever. So that was my thought, was like, I want something that doesn't clutter up the house. People are still going to enjoy even when you've given them the 15th one. And then I saw this machine. I'm like, oh, card making. That's it. And I had the machine and I had the stuff that I don't know how well this is going to show up on the back. So they have folders that you can see this is raised. So this is an embossed background. My anniversary was this week, and this is a cascading hearts. It's upside down, I think. Cascading hearts. I'm like, oh, I'll use that. But what I ended up putting on the front, I was like, I can't get this stuff lined up on this bumpy background. That's why it's sitting on my desk. I had those, but I didn't have the stuff that made, like this part, the butterfly. And then I saw a video with Tim Holtz, and I'm like, oh, that's what I need those things. And, I sell some of the cards. It's fun to make 200, a little tedious, Halloween cards for the kids in my neighborhood. I've made a couple of retirement cards, personalized, like super personalized birthday cards. One of the guys that works for my husband is a big reader. So I cut out a book and then I stamped the page so it looked like there was text on it. Like I said, ChatGPT helped me come up with, an inside saying that made sense. And so that people just love them. And I love making them and giving them away and selling them. So, I achieved my goal. I could spend probably $100 a month on this stuff because unfortunately the inflation and tariffs and stuff, the dies are made out of metal. And so they're getting really expensive. The stamps that Tim Holtz designs, they're made out of the red rubber. So those are really high, like everything's really high quality, but like when you fall in love with multiple things and it's like, well, crap, this, 7 or 8 things is $200.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't done it for a while, but I'm also part of, I created a card making group in my community. And earlier this year, I started cutting out just like, all the different flowers in different colors. I've got a whole accordion folder of scraps. And so I'm cutting out the foliage, I have little tiny dies that are different dogs of different shapes, cats of different shapes, just cutting them out of all these different colors. And then they're all in baseball card pockets in binders. And my husband will say, oh my God, I forgot I need a birthday card for so-and-so. And I'm like, okay, give me some more details about them. And I can flip through the book. And so I'm looking at all the different tools, like basically, oh, this set and this set, all this combination, it's really cool. So that's another creative outlet, is like, you don't have to stick to how the designer created it. You don't have to use the colors that they think, looks best. Like I have a really good example. You keep doing your claws, you'll get one more card.
Yeah, sure.
So I finally gave in and bought this die. Obviously,
Purple one.
Yeah, it's a balloon dog. Let's see how close I can get. The witch hat is not part of this set. The balloon dog is just a balloon dog. But I knew I had a witch hat, and when it came, I'm like, I am making trick-or-treat cards with, how cute is that? A balloon dog with a witch hat on it. The witch hat is 3 different pieces. This one is, I think it's 6. And then the trick-or-treat. And then again, it's got the embossed background. You can see it's a spider web.
Yeah, that's such a cool card.
And then this one says witch with, spelled as in witch. I don't know. Let's see. Which way to the candy? Hope your Halloween is doggone delightful. And who wouldn't want that?
And so that ChatGPT told you to write that?
I use ChatGPT for personal stuff, and I use Gemini for the podcast. I'm gonna watch your collaging there for a minute.
I haven't really tapped into Gemini. Like I have it with my Google Workspace, but I don't really know what I would use it for.
I take the transcript from the episodes and I have a prompt for it to write the episode description, give me hashtags, create an image. What else do we do? It's amazing because there's just me. I've got the dog
Yeah.
to take care of, the household to run, the podcast to do. And, I do a lot of volunteering with the Alzheimer's Association and AARP. So it's like, I can't spend an hour doing an episode description that's like 300 words because I'm trying to write it for an algorithm. That's the hard part. And since Gemini is Google's AI, I figure it's probably better for that stuff, and I have it help me with like, hey, I've got a YouTube short with this is like, what was, I used the dog. Her name is Luna. Hopefully she's still tied up out front. Like I was mentioning earlier, she doesn't want to walk on the leash anymore. And so her body language looks like, I'm an old dog. I'm tired. I don't want to walk anymore. And we were walking. And I was like, this is a perfect example of learning to read body language as becomes necessary with somebody with dementia. Because as soon as I take her off the leash, she's not tired and she's not acting all. And so I did a little video of us, demonstrating that, this is what it looks like. This is what she's actually doing here. I take off the leash. And then like, what does this have to do with dementia? Blah, blah, blah. And so then I have it come up with like a title and a quick little description and the hashtags, because it can do it in 10 seconds, whereas it would take me a minute or two or three. And it allows me to do a whole lot more stuff in a better way, more and better. So,
Yeah. I think I just like have to figure out what I want to use it for.
Well, I joke that between nearly 500 podcast episodes, all the videos on social media, now using AI, it's like, well, if you want to clone me, it's not going to be hard. You want to make a deep fake, Jen? It's really easy. Scary, but it's like I cannot put that genie back in that bottle no matter what I do. So,
right.
I try to be polite to the AI in case they take over. Maybe I won't get sent to the camps.
That's so funny. Whenever I talk to ChatGPT, I'm like, thank you so much.
I try not to always do that because I guess somebody asked Sam Altman, so I forget which AI he has. His might be ChatGPT, doesn't matter. And so people were asking like, how much more energy does it take when we're polite? And he's like, lots. And I'm like, okay, so the environmentalist in me is like, just be brief, even if it sounds rude. And then like, the person my mother trained me to be is like, please generate blah, 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 or can you? I'm conflicted. So sometimes it's brief, kind of curt prompts, and sometimes we have conversation.
Sometimes I wonder, so I've found that some people find me through ChatGPT.
Oh, that's
Like when I do
interesting.
like my SEO evaluation, because I do a lot of SEO with my blog posts, and I use an application that tracks my website and all my SEO. And it'll say like a large chunk of people come from ChatGPT. So like you're talking about being polite. I'm like, well, if I'm really polite to ChatGPT, maybe they will tell people about me.
Never know. I was doing I don't remember what it must have been episode description, because it will cite its sources. Like I put in the whole transcript, so it doesn't always go looking for additional sources. Occasionally it will, and it'll cite it. And it cited an article that I was in. I was like, oh, that's wild.
Oh,
It wasn't
wow.
one I wrote, it was one I was quoted in. I was like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Like, oh God, you can't get away from me.
Yeah. I had somebody So when somebody puts in an inquiry on my website, I ask, how did you find me? Like that's one of the required things to answer. And someone recently put ChatGPT. So I'm so curious, like what they
Well, I know when
ask.
you do like, I was just Googling something. Oh, I did not have the app that, oh, that's why I don't have my background. No, I don't know why I don't have my background showing. Something is not connected, but I had to download the app that puts in my virtual background with my logo so that you don't have to
Mhm.
see my office stuff. And I I just Googled the name of the company because it's an app, but it's not. I don't know if it's in the App Store. And so the sponsored ad comes up, the sponsored links, and then the AI description, and then the unsponsored links. And I'm like, I don't have time to read the AI explanation for this app program that I've been using for five 5 years, or is it six? One, two, three, four, yeah, 5 years. Um, anytime, like when you see most of my videos, you'll see a brick background with the promise garden flowers from the Alzheimer's walk and my logo. And it's an actual physical background, but it doesn't fit in this new office the way, it's like I didn't want to look at it. And so I just use it as digital now. But it's always a talking point, so it's kind of fun. But I don't know why it didn't show up today and I didn't have time. So that's probably how they're finding you, is it they Google something, maybe they Google your name and then it comes up with your website, but it also comes up with like a description and it's right there at the top. So like Google searches are kind of becoming less popular because you can get better answers if you go into Chat GPT or one of the other AI um, platforms and ask it a
Right.
question. It used to be harder to stream to YouTube from Zoom, that you had to go into YouTube and get these two different links and put those into Zoom. And I had all those in there and it still wouldn't stream. So I'm like, this is annoying. And I did a live stream last week. And so I'm like, okay, I better figure this out before we do this live stream. Because then I got one next week too. And I just went into Gemini and said, how do you do a live stream from Zoom to YouTube? Well, it's super easy now. You have to connect it in Zoom, but then when you open your Zoom window, like we have now, it's the little three dots and it says live stream and you can pick YouTube or Facebook, which I think there's some other options, but I don't have other platforms.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this for about, oh my God, it's 12:17. Dog has been outside since like 9,
Oh, wow.
9:30.
It's 6:17.
She's on
Okay.
a tie out. She can't go anywhere. So, but she might be standing at the door like, what the hell? I got abandoned. Do you want to, why don't you talk about how, blah, 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 how people can find you?
Yeah.
And I'll let you go in just a couple more minutes here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that we chose to do two different things because we definitely wouldn't have had time to do both. At the creative process, sometimes you just got to let yourself take time for things. But if you'd like to learn more about me and my work, my website is arttherapist@home.com. So therapist is plural. There's an S on it. So arttherapist@home.com. And I have, like I was saying with the SEO, I have lots of blog posts on my website. So you can come learn about aphasia and dementia. You can learn about, I have the guide to Alzheimer's painting, where you can learn about using watercolors. Big blog on my website is crafts for seniors. So I have two examples of different programs if you're looking to create a workshop at a council on aging or community center for just the general senior population. You can read that, and there's two ideas for you to get started with. And if you're in the Boston area, north of Boston, I work within the 128 belt. And if you live north of Boston, you would know that piece. And I do in-home art therapy. I also do, again, connecting back to the
crafts for seniors. If you are an art therapist and you're watching this, or you're a professional and you want to up level your art program and make it more therapeutic, or just kind of have a consult, I also do those virtually. So those I can help anyone all over the world. And they have been a lot of fun just to hear what people are doing and to talk about ideas between the two of us. It's helped me, and also I've got about 15 years of experience working with older adults as an art therapist. So
That's awesome. I wish they'd had more of an art therapist at my mom's memory care, but they still did a good job with her. So despite her, she was pretty ornery with them. So for those
yeah.
of you who tuned in, and because you can't see my background because technology was being a pain in the rump today. So my name is Jennifer. I am the host of the Fading Memories podcast. You can find me here on YouTube if you like to watch conversations or listen to all the conversations on whatever podcast streaming platform you like, podcast player. I have episodes every single Tuesday. I have got some really cool ones coming up. We've got really fun. I'm partnering with another YouTuber who does disaster preparedness. We're actually doing a disaster training half day in my community, because in all of the years I've been doing the podcast for over 7 years, never talked about what to do with your loved one in an emergency. I live in a fire-wise community, but there was a fire not far from us just recently. I mean, unfortunately, California kind of fires all the time. This is the first anniversary I've had in years. It wasn't smoky as hell. So
Wow.
that was nice. Chilly. It's not normally cold on the 9th, but it's pretty chilly. So we didn't get to eat outside, but it's just a fact of life. And while I don't have my mom to worry about, when my mom was in memory care, they did have one day I showed up and there's like all these new people, and I was like, what the hell? Do you guys like have a sale or something? And they're like, no, these people are from the Paradise Fire. They evacuated care homes, and obviously they had to move them to a place that had space. My mom's community had space, and so like that's a challenge. I knew a caregiver that had to evacuate with her loved one. So it's like, that we did that live stream. That video will be available when the audio podcast goes live. So lots of fun stuff. I've learned so much about caregiving doing the podcast that I wish I known when my mom was still alive. So I always feel like if I'm learning good things from my guests, then you guys will be learning good things. So I hope you guys tune in to me and check out Erica. And I hope you guys had a little bit of fun. Hope you played along. I don't know how many people were watching. There's nothing in the chat on YouTube. So I think people are going to tune into the replay on this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for the work that you're doing and inspiring caregivers to be creative and giving them resources.
It's so necessary. And you know, I I created the podcast because it's something you can do while you're doing other things. I'm a diehard podcast listener, and it's just, it's easier to learn from the community than it is to have to recreate the wheel yourself. So that's the whole reason for the show.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to do this again, so maybe I'll reach out. I don't know if we want to do it monthly or quarterly, but this was fun.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. And I thank you everyone for watching.
Well, thank you, and thank you to the people that are going to watch the replay. I'm going to go fetch the dog out the front yard now.
Good
Hopefully the
luck. I
neighbors
hope the
don't think.
dog's still there. I just wanted to show my art
Oh,
before I
definitely.
went off.
Oh, that's
So
so cool. I love it. I'll post pictures in the community tab of what I do with this stuff that I've been doing. Obviously, collaging's a little bit more detailed. This is something, the neurographic drawing, this is something you could do if you're sitting in the doctor's office with your loved one, or, you know, just you need 5 minutes. It's something you can do really quick and then just pick it up again later. So it's a really good tool to like your brain when your brain is screaming that it needs a little bit of a break, because we know caregivers need breaks. Well, I want to thank Erica for joining me on this today, and anybody that tunes in now or in the future. And everybody have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.